2024 was undoubtedly the year of Fallout. Despite no new game releases from a AAA studio, we still did get a Fallout game because modders were truly the star of the show over the course of 2024. So in this video, I'm going to show you my top 10 Fallout 4 mods to come out in 2024, this list being in no particular order outside of the last mod I show you being the best, at least in my opinion, my favorite mod of the year. And I do think some of these mods will surprise you. Some of my favorite mods weren't all that popular, and particularly with my mod of the year, quite a few of you aren't going to see this one coming. But first off, I'm lazy, so one of my favorite mods of 2024 was settler-built settlements. With this one, you just place down some supplies at your settlement, go off and do some quests, and you'll come back to find your settlers building up a home for themselves. For years now, me and a lot of you have been just using sim settlements to achieve something pretty similar to this, but the appeal of settler-built settlements is it's a much simpler alternative. You'll find your settlers really focus on building up the necessities. You'll find walled-in prefabs with some security on the outskirts, plenty of beds and homes built for whoever's staying at your settlement, and even some of the necessary resources for survival being constructed. To me, this is how settlements should have always worked in Fallout 4, and with this mod, your settlers will build up a relatively simple settlement that just hits their core needs, but it still provides you the opportunity to grow it even further and improve on things. But some of the mods in this video are also incredibly popular, such as You and What Army 2. This is a Minutemen Overhaul mod that will make them feel like a proper faction. So now, as you progress through the Minutemen questline, certain things will begin to happen around you. Up to 30 new way stations will appear around the Commonwealth. These are basically small Minutemen bases that will have some of the basic supplies, and sometimes even crafting options at them, and oftentimes have a couple of Minutemen members stationed there. Tons of patrols will pop up as you begin to re-establish different settlements. Rebuilding the Commonwealth also involves protecting it, and with this mod, you'll actually see the Minutemen patrolling around and even guarding your own supply lines. That's another really cool detail of this. If you side with the Minutemen, help them get built up, it'll benefit you as well. Your settlements will become even more powerful, including some new workshop items that you could build as guard posts. This, of course, will make your settlements feel more on theme for a Minutemen playthrough, but also just be some of the best defensive structures in the game. Overall, this mod is relatively simple. The actual gameplay won't be all that different with this one installed, but it makes siding and doing an entire playthrough with the Minutemen far more enjoyable. This mod will make that faction actually feel substantial, and like you are recruiting a Commonwealth army, which you'll see evolve over the course of the game based off your actions. And it honestly is just a really cool vanilla plus mod that probably should have been a feature in the base game. And honestly, now looking at this video, I think I have a certain type of mod, as quite a few of the mods in this video are vanilla plus mods, such as Forced Evolution. This one is really cool. It's a super mutant overhaul that basically adds in a few new super mutant variants along with a side creature. And all of these new variants are really well made and quite lore friendly. They don't feel out of place with the rest of the super mutants. Like, yeah, how did all of those meat bags get there? Well, with this mod, there's a new super mutant butcher enemy that does explain their presence, and it even implements a new weapon for one of the newly added foes. But honestly, I would say this is one of those mods where it's almost better to just download it and start experiencing it, because sometimes the surprise of encountering these mutants for the first time yourself is the thrill. I noticed that before I downloaded this one, a lot of the super mutant encounters in Fallout 4 were quite samey. It'd really just be a bigger, tougher, bullet spongy enemy that often was using some crappy weapons against me. But with Forced Evolution, all of that will change, because having a ton of new super mutant variants makes these encounters far more enjoyable across an entire playthrough. And these new enemies do really change up the combat encounters. Sometimes you'll now need to strategize, as some of these new super mutants are incredibly powerful and have unique abilities, and other times it'll just be hilarious, because some of the enemies from this mod do make for some very funny encounters in game, and if those enemies come off a bit scary, you can always grab the Wattz 3000 to help fend them off. I don't include many weapon mods on my top mods of the year list, but this one's pretty special. It of course adds back the Wattz from past Fallout games as a proper weapon, and with this mod, it'll be fully utilizing Fallout 4's customization system. There are pistol variants, rifle options, and even some unique versions scattered throughout the Commonwealth. And honestly, it's really just a well-made weapon mod. The visuals on this one are nuts. It has this functioning display and even a turning knob as you fire, and quality is just found throughout the entirety of this one. All of the attachments, custom or even some of the more familiar ones, are incredibly high quality and have tons of details. The unique variants are really well placed into the world, and of course, it's an existing Fallout weapon, which makes it very lore-friendly. The Wattz 3000 isn't one of those weapon mods that's going to make it onto a list like this by standing out for any one specific thing. It's not like it has some crazy feature that really brought it to my attention, but instead, it's the overall attention to detail and consistent quality that just makes this one of the best weapon mods because it's great everywhere. Everything it does is really good. But circling back around to settlements, what is probably the simplest mod in this video, while also being one of the most essential, is the Rebuild Collection all-in-one. Do you ever hate how no matter what you do, your Fallout 4 settlements will still be partially broken and dirty? Well, this mod fixes that. Now, at almost every settlement, there's going to be an option to repair some of the existing structures at that settlement. This includes things like bringing castles' walls to their former glory, make Starlight Drive-In an actual functional drive-in, or hey, just fix this broken glass that you're walking past on every single playthrough. And with some of these, it'll even tidy up some of the things in the nearby area, making things a bit cleaner or getting rid of some of the junk. On some playthroughs, I'm spending dozens of hours in a singular settlement, so it's nice to actually make it look decent and somewhat fixed up, like I'm actually at a home. And a theme you'll notice in this video, this is yet another mod that I feel like really should just be a base game feature. Thankfully, 2024 also brought to us some DLC-sized mods for Fallout 4 though, such as with Attack of the Lobotomites. This will bring back the Lobotomites from Fallout New Vegas. Things will kick off with a new quest bringing you to the Braintree Mental Rehabilitation Center. Inside, you'll find a largely destroyed location that is now infested with all kinds of different lobotomite enemies. Functionally, these guys are bionic zombies, making them a very unique and quite challenging fight in this location. And really, with this mod, it hits perfectly on three major fronts. First, it's just another cool Fallout story. The quest itself will explain what went wrong with these people. Like I mentioned before, they're from one of the Fallout New Vegas DLCs. But even further, the questline will explain why they ended up in the Commonwealth in the first place, and even more specifically, what was going on at this location and what went wrong. And the quest even ends with some pretty big decisions and nice rewards you can walk away with. The quest in its own right is great, but things are heavily elevated by the dungeon that's surrounding all of it. Because as you do arrive at this location, the quest will really take a backseat to the plethora of enemies located here. This dungeon is expansive. Over time, you'll open up new areas with their own twists, and even some of the enemies located here are a bit different. They have slightly edited AI and will ambush you quite often. But there's also just a variety of lobotomite types. There's going to be a lot of these general attackers using all kinds of new melee weapons against you, but some are going to be in full-on straitjackets, which will definitely bring out the sympathy, or even straitjackets with bombs attached to their back and they're going to sprint at you. Clearing this dungeon is a blast in more ways than one, and it features all kinds of twists and turns, as there's going to be different segments of the area that open up as you progress, so things constantly feel fresh, and included in that are even 4 distinct boss fights. Each of these is themed around something medical, and many of the bosses have some kind of interesting mechanic or theme going for them, and also some really great loot. If the mod just stopped there, it likely would still make it on this list, but in reality, Attack of the Lobotomites is also a massive weapon and armor pack. So all throughout this dungeon, you're going to be experiencing a ton of new items, and of course, you'll get them as quest rewards or just loot them off some of the enemies you're encountering. This includes a variety of weapons with a ton of customization options available for them. It's not like you're just getting the base version of that sword. No, you can do a ton to that. So as an all-in package, this is just a great experience. A very official feeling DLC-sized mod, kind of like a new weapon pack added to Fallout 4 with a quest and epic dungeon attached to it. But if you also want the rest of the game to feel fresh and interesting over that next playthrough, another one of the best mods of 2024 is the Commonwealth Encounter Pack. This will add in 290 additional random encounters into Fallout 4, which is more than the game shipped with in the first place. So this is more than doubling the amount of random encounters in this game. If you're not familiar, random encounters are those things that you just randomly stumble upon while adventuring. This could just be a couple of enemies fighting against each other, or something a bit more unique, like a specific or special interaction or thing to find. This mod simply hooks into that system and will add more content to it. So now, if you've played Fallout 4 for the past 9 years, you've probably seen a good chunk of the available random encounters. This mod's going to add a bunch of new ones, so you're going to have a ton of novelty for that next playthrough. And these are specifically designed in the same way of the vanilla random encounters. So a lot of these will just feel similar while also providing more content, but certain other ones are a bit more unique and memorable. You can find an enemy with a treasure map and follow it to get some kind of high tier item. A dead raider that spent all of his caps on a turret defense, forgetting that, yeah, snipers exist, but he's still being guarded by his turrets. Or hey, maybe even just a simple gunner ambush on a bridge. Like a few of the other mods in this video, this is one of those ones that you just want to download and forget about. But on a whole, it'll make you run into some more unique or just novel things for your next Fallout 4 playthrough. But in 2024, modders were also making Fallout 4 the ultimate Fallout game, aka bring some of the major features from past Fallouts and modding them into this one. And while the specific mod to make it onto this top 10 video is Reputation, honestly, most of the recent releases from BP42S are incredible and were heavy candidates for appearing in this video, so I do want to give this author a special shout out for just making Fallout 4 more fun to play. But my favorite of the bunch was Reputation, which, as the name suggests, it'll add back the reputation system from past Fallout games into Fallout 4. So with this mod, if you do good or bad things, this oftentimes around some of the major quest choices in the game, but also just how you generally interact with that specific faction, this will dynamically adjust your standing with them either positively or negatively. And you can easily track this. You'll get milestone updates just like in Fallout New Vegas, and there's even a new Pip-Boy tab for Reputation, along with all of the faction-specific locations reflecting your current status with that faction. That is really the core backbone of this mod, making decisions as you go along and play, but of course where things really get fun is what happens as you hit some of these reputational milestones. If the faction starts to like you, you'll get some more powerful bonuses, a flat discount at their vendors will come early on, and sometimes even faction members will personally thank you for being aligned and helping them. But as you do improve things even further, these factions will start giving you access to supplies. So now some of their bases will have supply crates open to you with all kinds of faction relevant items. And at the highest tier of affinity, you can even get some very powerful perks for being allied to someone. But of course, on the flip side, if you piss off a faction enough, you'll start to see even worse prices at some of their vendors. And if you continue further, they'll actually try to take you out. Initially, things will be relatively simple, and faction members will just attack you on sight. But if you do continue to fight members of that faction, as of course, now, yeah, they're attacking you, and your reputation continues to decrease, this can turn into full-on hit squads, just like what was in New Vegas. And this could be a really big deal. A Brotherhood hit squad with full power armored enemies can be a massive problem at almost any point in the mid to early game. And that is really why this mod's so fun. Particularly the higher tier rewards or consequences of perks or hit squads can have a really big impact on gameplay. So all of a sudden, as you're planning your next Fallout 4 playthrough, this is something you really need to consider now. It might not really make all that much sense to piss off the Brotherhood of Steel in the earlier part of the game. You have to consider what they're going to do to you in response. Conversely, if you're spending a ton of time in Diamond City like many players do, it probably makes sense to do a couple of those side quests to get better prices across the board or even some of the other faction benefits. Overall, it's a fun mod that can really change up how you play in pretty unique ways. And that's why this is my favorite out of the bunch. I feel like with Reputation, it makes you consider things that you weren't necessarily considering before and forces you to play in a bit of a unique way. But then, with what is likely to be the least surprising entry on this list, we do have Fallout London. Although perhaps a surprise that this isn't my #1 mod of the year, modders worked together for years to fully recreate post-apocalyptic London and then just released it totally for free for all of us to enjoy. This is a proper full game-sized mod. There is no other way to describe it. It's not a DLC. It took me 25 hours just to beat the main story, and with side content, this is likely over 50 hours, if not more, of free, high-quality Fallout content. Like, I think you could make the argument that Fallout London is a better game and experience than some of the mainline Fallout games. Like, I know for me, if I had to pick between playing Fallout London or some of the other ones, I'd probably pick London. Honestly, it'd be hard for a mod this size not to make it onto a list like this, but Fallout London is also just genuinely good, mainly because the team behind this one put in a ton of effort. As you're actually in and exploring London, it feels completely distinct compared to the rest of the Commonwealth because it basically is. Rather than just reusing many of the assets that you could find in the Commonwealth in Fallout 4's base game, the Fallout London team took the time and put in the effort to remake a ton of stuff, even down to the font and some miscellaneous junk items. This makes it so as you're actually exploring through London, it is a completely unique Fallout experience. London genuinely feels foreign as you're first getting there, and it's a really great questing experience as well. This mod includes a mountain of quest content. The writing here is consistently good. A lot of times these major mod projects have issues, and while Fallout London, of course, like any game, is going to have great and decent quests, I feel like that's where Fallout London really shined, in that the quality was consistently there. It wasn't like I was rolling my eyes from quest to quest, but no, I was doing the opposite really. I was consistently engaged. Because what elevates some of these quests even more beyond some of the writing is a lot of the times they're just epic. You'll be doing things like robbing banks, this being the literal Bank of England. You'll run into large-scale boat shootouts with explosions happening around you, and hey, at one point there's even a train heist. The things you actually do over the main story and some of these side quests with this mod are consistently awesome, and even many quests have a variety of ways to progress them. A lot of times you'll have options A or B, and sometimes even A, B, or C as far as how to get to that next objective. And while playing through Fallout London, I noticed consistently that the quest progression options were more than Fallout 4. And a big part of what makes this experience so enjoyable is London's constant evolution. This mod is very deliberately laid out so you gradually unlock more of London over time. Some areas you likely won't even see until 10 to 15 hours into the mod. So Fallout London really turns into this journey where you're constantly discovering new places, meeting new people, and aligning with someone. And the way it's all formatted really does allow you to align with certain factions that are nearby. You're going to spend a lot of time in certain areas and really get to know these groups. You'll learn how they feel about London itself, but also, of course, how they feel about some of the other factions in London. So this world starts to feel very alive and interconnected due to this design, while the exploration really just feels endless. You're constantly meeting new people, each uniquely themed around London culture, and while, yeah, you can just follow the main quest, you'll also be getting tons of side content as you go through this. And similar to what I said before, if they just did that, if they just kind of adapted Fallout 4 style into London, but gave us a bunch of unique factions and stories and made it all look really cool, it would be in this list. It'd still be the best Fallout 4 mod ever made. But the Fallout London team actually went even further than that and redesigned several features for this mod to really make it distinct compared to Fallout 4's Commonwealth. Because, yeah, 30 plus hours of story content wasn't enough. So while you're in London, you're going to notice a way larger reliance on melee weapons. Things in general are going to be more difficult here. Stim packs are far more scarce, and I was ammo crafting for the first time almost ever. There are things like trains and cams that you can utilize to get around, and a ton more on top of that. Overall, Fallout London is the single best mod to ever come to Fallout 4, but yeah, the video is not over yet. This isn't my mod of the year, so why did I pick something over this? Well, actually I didn't. I picked 3 mods over this. But before we get into those, I do want to give you some honorable mentions. The Select Blaster was basically Lucy's pistol from the Fallout TV show implemented into Fallout 4. This weapon is incredibly well done, and it immediately connected gamers with the show, even leading to my most viewed piece of content ever. The Mind Games Prologue demo dropped just a few weeks ago. This is the first few hours of a DLC-sized mod that's in the works, and it's incredible. The beauty of it to me is it's a uniquely Fallout 4 story, where you're helping Nick Valentine solve a new case dealing with the criminal underworld of the Commonwealth. What happens in the wake of the death of Skinny Malone. And even though it's not fully out yet, even just the prologue is amazing and definitely worth playing. The only reason it's getting an honorable mention because it's not the full mod. Whenever that full mod comes out, it'll definitely be on this list. And in a somewhat similar vein, I also do want to mention the Fallout Vault 13 demo. This was a fully recreated region of Fallout 1 in Fallout 4's engine, including a ton of NPCs, some voice acting, and even quests to complete. It truly is an amazing feat, although sadly the mod's development did stop shortly after this demo was released. But to me, the best mod for Fallout 4 in 2024 is actually a collection of 3 mods. The simple Fallout 4 Downgrader, which allowed you to downgrade your game from the next-gen version back to the non-updated one, and specifically, you didn't have to input your Steam credentials to use this one. The Backported Archive 2 support system allows you to use the updated plugin style that was introduced with the next-gen update on the downgraded version of Fallout 4, so this is what's allowing some of that feature parity between the newer version of the game, but then a lot of people playing on the older version of the game. And finally, Excel, which technically does a few things, but most importantly here, it'll stop the stutter issue if you download mods that edit NPC face gen data. Because yeah, the most important mods to me last year were the ones that actually allowed me to play this game. Bethesda not only disrupted modding with their broken Fallout 4 next gen update, but also just broke the game, which mind you, yeah, it's still broken. Bethesda just left it this way. If you download a mod that edits NPC face gen data and you're using the most updated version, your game will begin to stutter. But once again, modders stepped up to preserve the experience for the rest of us on PC, and in my eyes, it's the reason I was really able to enjoy many of the other phenomenal mods to come out in 2024, and even onward. I'm still using the old downgraded version of Fallout 4, and unless another update comes out, I'll probably stay here. So while these three may not be the most glamorous of winners, I still feel like they're incredibly necessary. With that said, those are my top 10, or really top 12, Fallout 4 mods of 2024, and hey, if you enjoyed this one, you may also be curious about what on earth is going on with the Fallout franchise right now.